Stronger Together, a series overview. The housewares industry is full of wonderful and amazing companies and individuals. The Cookware Manufacturers Association has the privilege of having these incredible people as our members. As part of our new podcast, What's Cooking with the CMA, we will be launching a series celebrating the diversity in our industry and how this makes us stronger. Stronger Together will celebrate the amazing people in our industry, from designers and trendsetters to engineers and scientists, to buyers and executives. We have so many great stories to share and people to celebrate. Coming together is a beginning. Keeping together is a process. Working together is success. Henry Ford.
In the last year, we have heard the saying "Stronger Together," used in many avenues. It's a top hashtag and used to convey one of the most important messages of the world today, that together we can do more and together great things are possible. The housewares industry is a great example of the strength in numbers and especially diversity. We're a powerful industry full of so many incredible and talented people. The Cookware Manufacturers Association has the privilege of having these incredible people as our members. As part of our new podcast, What's Cooking with the CMA, we'll be launching a series celebrating the diversity in our industry and how this makes us stronger. Stronger Together will celebrate the amazing people in our industry, from designers and trendsetters to engineers and scientists, to buyers and executives. Do you know the story of Rosalind Franklin? While she's not from the housewares industry, she's a great woman to highlight. In 1962, 3 men received the Nobel Prize for their work in DNA, but there was a 4th member of the team, Rosalind. Her data and photographs led to the discovery. She fought and focused to make her presence known. What about Brownie Wise? This one's a little more connected to the housewares industry, the original girl boss. Brownie Wise capitalized on post-war optimism to build an empire that made its way into every home in America, Tupperware. Though she didn't invent Tupperware, she elevated it from random accessory to a suburban must-have by hosting parties that demonstrated its use. Another woman who made incredible strides in our industry, and the first woman to appear on the cover of Business Week. These stories are examples of the power of women in industry. And in honor of Women's History Month, and to kick off this new series, listen in as we shine the light on 2 incredible women in our industry and our association. Welcome. My name is Fran Groesbeck, and you are listening to What's Cooking with the Cookware Manufacturers Association. Today, we're excited to have Sue Hoff, Senior Principal Engineer at Amway, and Penny Rosema, the Transitioning Managing Director at the Cookware Manufacturers Association. You can find more about Amway at www.amway.com. And of course, you can find out more about Cookware Manufacturers Association at cookware.org. Hi, Sue. Hi, Penny. Welcome to our podcast.
Hey, Fran. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Hello, everybody.
Hi there. See you. Thank you guys for joining me today. I love this matchup because I met Penny through Sue, and you guys have known each other for a long time. Can you actually tell our listeners, Sue, how you and Penny know each other? How long?
Penny and I worked on a project together over 20 years ago at Amway. At that point in time, we had both been at Amway longer than 20 years, but had never met one another. And it was a cooking project, and we had a wonderful time growing a working relationship, and then have stayed friends ever since.
I ditto that. That's exactly true. She was a great mentor, actually, kind of for me with my first international trips, and we might talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, it's been a fun friendship.
Oh, that's fantastic. So, how you just referenced how long you were at Amway, but how long have you spent your whole time in the housewares industry, Sue, at that time?
No, I have worked in product development at Amway for my entire career. But prior to working in the cooking category, I had worked on other categories. And in fact, I'm one of the few people in product development that has worked on every single major category, including home care, personal care, cosmetics, jewelry, hosiery. So I've worked on a lot of different projects over the years, but over 30 years, I've worked in the cooking category.
And Penny, how long have you been connected with cookware?
Well, so my career with Amway was over 38 years, but I worked in the cookware category probably for a half a dozen years. But like Sue, that was one thing that was, just a great experience about working at Amway is about every couple, 3 to 5 years, I changed positions. So I had experience in product development in the areas of cosmetics and nutrition and home care. And then of course they have air filtration systems, and then of course cookware as well. So it was a mixture of a lot of things.
That's incredible. That's some journey you each took. That's a lot of different products and must have been incredible experiences. I know being in product is so much like little intricacies with each product. Must have been just an incredible experience.
It was fun. It was a great ride. I had a great time at Amway. And product development, though, regardless of what product it is, kind of the process is similar. And that was what you were able to carry from one category to another. I think that's probably
so
for you, Sue, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I learned so much over the years, but the job that served me the best was in the costume jewelry category, because I learned everything about plastics and glass and stamping and polishing and plating and adhesives. I mean, just everything, the whole process of manufacturing. And that has gone through my entire career since then. Not just using those particular skills, but then the process that you learn as you develop products. And that was a quick turn. Every 6 months, we launched a new line.
Wow. That's incredible. So you just touched on being in product, and nowhere do you go and get the opportunity to necessarily major in what you're describing. So can I ask you both, where did you go to school? Like, what did you study? And is this what you majored in or what you thought you'd be doing? Start with Sue.
Okay. I went to Ferris State University. I got an undergraduate degree in environmental health, fully intended to get a job with the government, and there were no jobs when I graduated. So I hired into Amway, and I found out if I stayed a year, they'd pay for graduate school. So I went and got a degree in management from Aquinas College, a small local college here in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And what I learned from both of those degrees, first, a science undergraduate is always a solid way to start your career. And I learned a lot of the principles of organizing your work and organizing your research. And then I went to Aquinas, and that program is humanistic management. And that was a really good balance for a lab rat to realize that business is about people. And what that did was it served me well, because I really learned that relationships are what builds business, and people are what make businesses work. And you can do all the great job that you want in a laboratory all by yourself and invent something, but if nobody wants it or nobody will talk to you, you're kind of in trouble. So that was what my education did to prepare me for being in product development.
What about you, Penny?
Well, my journey was in some ways a little bit similar. I went to Amway, was going to go there for a little while until I figured out what I wanted to be when I grew up. And shortly learned that they would, support your education, depending, at that time it was if you, depending upon your grade, a C, B, or an A, they would pay 70, 80, or 90% of your grade. So I took a lot of undergraduate classes, local colleges. And then I transferred and took a short time off from Amway and finished my degree at Michigan State with an engineering degree. And the degree in engineering was in more industrial engineering, process oriented, and very helpful because of my eventual path was into a lot of project management roles, coordinating between manufacturing, marketing, who's got a great new idea that they want to put something in a oval shaped bottle, and then making sure that the change parts and all the pieces will run down the production line to meet the launch date. So I love that area. And then also, like Sue, Amway paid for my graduate degree, and I was working on a weekend MBA program down at Notre Dame. And like Sue mentioned, the big things that I've learned out of those programs was the importance of networking. And we'll talk a little bit later, I think, on another question you might have, but about that specific networking experience that I learned from Notre Dame. But the relationships and my experience was in the importance of project management and coordinating the big picture. I think also the science degree for me, because of my age, when I came out of high school, you were encouraged to be a nurse, a mom, or a teacher. No one, encouraged you to go to engineering school. And, because I went nights and it took me a little bit longer, and I realized that was an area that I really liked. The other thing I learned about working at Amway was I didn't have my degree, and I was always interested in doing more. And I always bumped up against that, you need a college degree. So it's just like, if you're going to be in Rome, do as the Romans do. And if you're going to go after something, go after something that will get, in the direction of where you want to be. And I really liked product development. So those are the reasons that, I think the education helped me. And it just gave me a lot of confidence when I came back into the workforce after a couple of years, with that engineering degree. It made me feel like, it gave me some confidence, I guess.
I love both your stories because this is a topic that comes up with a lot of students I talk to. They want to know, because they're under so much pressure to pick the right path forward and the right major. So I love to ask the question of, are you doing what you were doing? Was it planned? Because most of us, it wasn't planned. It just kind of happens. And the message I want to send to the students that listen to us is just keep going. And like you said, Penny, actually the number one thing is just get that degree. And that's big. But it's so funny. I think they perceive that a lot of us had this big plan. No, it just kind of happens and connects and rolls along. So with this journey between where you started and where you are now, and you touched on it before, do you have any stories to share of each other? And Penny, you mentioned international travel stories of you and Sue. Do you have any fun stories of your journey together?
Sue was great. She was the first time I traveled to China. We were on a project together. And there were two things that that immediately pop into my mind about Sue and working with her. First of all, just her level of professionalism. And I was representing procurement and she was representing the R&D side. And I had other roles in procurement as a buyer working with other people. And often the marketing or the scientists, they kind of tried to take over what the procurement's job was. And Sue was awesome about going into and meeting with suppliers. And she would give all of the, the details on it or the aspects of what was required from the development side. And then when people started talking business terms, she would just look at me and she'd say, well, you're going to have to talk to Penny about that. And I really highly respected her for that, for, just her professionalism. Not only that, just traveling internationally. I teased her, we've laughed about it for years. She should really write a book on how to travel internationally. She has a ton of fun stories, but then also just she gave me a lot of really practical information before I got on that plane the first time, both safety and even as far as we would laugh about it when we were traveling in China, back in some really distant places from our original hotel. And we'd be in the afternoon and we'd be going to be leaving in a few hours, well, not even a few hours, maybe an hour or so to head back. And it was a long drive. And she would just look at me and say, are you sure you want that second bottle of water there today? She didn't tell me what to do, but she just kind of like, you might want to think about it. You sure you want ice in that drink? So she was a great mentor for me, even peer to peer there. That was very helpful.
That could be a powerful journal, Sue, because how many people have we all worked with that their first trip overseas, there's all these little things you need to know that aren't written anywhere. So, Sue, do you have any stories about Penny you'd like to share?
Well, I think Penny tells our stories best, but I can say working with Penny, particularly traveling with Penny, I always felt like I was working with somebody who had my back, and they always made me laugh, even if it was at their own expense.
That's true. That is true. She can find the funny everywhere, and I gave her lots of opportunities.
She's full of material.
They make the best trips. They make the absolute best trips. So continuing on this journey, do you have any specific, say, examples of a position, or I'm going to say this because I think Sue knows where I'm headed, or an award that you've accomplished over the years that you particularly want to share or proud of? I know, Sue, you were the first woman in Amway to get a specific award. So that's why I bring it up.
Yeah. Well, Amway was my first job, and I kind of grew up at Amway, and I've been doing product development for over 40 years. In 2016, I was inducted into Amway's Distinguished Scientific Leadership Society. And honestly speaking, it was a really great honor for me, but it was also a great honor for the cooking category because, Amway is nutrition and it is beauty products and home care even. And people always thought of cookware as an afterthought. And getting an honor like this brought the spotlight onto the cooking category. And that made me really, really proud for all of the good work that we've done over the years. And I think it should be said that I would never have gotten that award if I was not a participant in CMA. CMA helped to elevate me in the eyes of Amway as a recognized industry participant and expert in a category. And that really did help move the needle in giving me that recognition and receiving that award.
Wow, that's incredible. It is an incredible association, and we're so lucky. I wish the listeners who aren't members need to become members just to know what it feels like to be. I use this a lot, the CMA family, because that's what we are. We're here to empower each other, lift each other up across all levels. Penny, now
I think I can also add something to this, though, that this is a really small group of people in the corporation. It's fewer than 15. It's probably around 12 people over Amway's almost 60 years that have been, or over 60 years that have been recognized in this category. And we kind of joke that, on a daily basis, there are more vice presidents in the corporation than there are these distinguished scientists. So it's a really exclusive club, and I'm really proud to be part of it. And it is because of CMA that I received that. So thank you.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and very well deserved. I rah because I'm one of Sue's biggest. I'm a president of Sue's fan club, so I should fully disclose that right now. But what I would tag team on that is I don't have any large awards or information that in that way to share with people. But what I will share is on that same follow-up idea of being involved in an organization outside of your day-to-day work. And there's lots of different ways to do that. CMA would be specific to your industry, right? To whatever you are. And I think that's huge. And of course, I'm a huge fan of CMA as well. But there's other opportunities too, like, being able to reach out to a mentor outside of your organization, right? Those people will help you see things that you don't see yourself. I always tell young people when I'm talking to them and they start a new job or they get a new job offer in an organization, I suggest that they right away ask for or negotiate, right? When they're getting their salaries, the funding for a mentor outside of the organization. Well, also negotiate for a mentor inside the organization, certainly, but that could be a business coach, that could be classes that you take, that could be the funding to join an association, or it could be funding to join Toastmasters, something where you're networking outside of yourself, because you're always going, you need your net, you want to create your network before you need it. Right? Those friendships and those resources. And yeah, that's just a great way to do it. And I think CMA, of course, is a wonderful one to take advantage of.
I think those are great examples. That's great advice, Penny, because you don't know what you don't know, right? And when you connect, and you've actually shown me this through the associations we've met now in this transition with the CMA, but the Women's Networking Group, the National Association, NAM and ASA, there's these amazing stories. And you think, how could I learn from someone who runs the tire association? And oh my gosh, we have similar problems. We have similar challenges. It's just incredible when you keep an open mind, and networking can be anywhere, like you said. What's great now too, as a result of COVID, it's just a click away. You don't have to be going to meetings 4 times a week somewhere at a house. You just jump on Zoom. So it's an incredible time to build your network.
Let's take a quick break here to remind everyone that you are listening to the What's Cooking podcast from the Cookware Manufacturers Association. Check out our website, cookware.org, for more information on our guests from today's podcast, as well as all of the great benefits the CMA has to offer. Learn about our incredible network, our timely industry reports, our engineering standards, our committees, our partner discounts, marketing resources, and more. Now let's get back to the podcast.
So if you had to pick 1 or 2 traits of where you attribute to where you've gotten to today about yourself, what would you say is your superpower, your Wonder Woman superpower?
Yeah, I can answer that. For me, it would definitely be those relationships. I talked a little bit about, you asked earlier what you learned in school. And one of the great lessons I learned as I graduated from Notre Dame was they sat down with us and they said, now you're going to be out looking in the job market. The first thing you need to do, so when you interview with, so Amway, let's say that was an example, look through our registry and find the name of anybody that works at Amway that graduated from Notre Dame. And then you reach out to that person because they will give you their contact information, or they did at that time. And you reach out to them and you say, hey, George, my name is Penny and I graduated from Notre Dame, and I noticed that you are a Notre Dame graduate and I interviewed for a job. Now, George might work in the tool crib, maintenance crib, or it could be something totally unrelated to where you're at, but you could say, I noticed that you are a graduate from Notre Dame. I'm interviewing in finance next week. And I just wondered if, have a conversation with them and can I refer to you? You might even actually know them, right? So that would be a benefit too. And then when you're in your interview with that person that day, they reach back. I mean, they have this whole process that they taught you. The process is important as the idea that really opened up my mind to understand the networks, right? And the important part of that is to do favors out before you need them back. And what I found is that when you do favors out, it doesn't come back from the same person you did the favor for. It comes out somewhere else random. But it's important to feed and nourish your networks and to help other people on whatever their goals and aspirations are. And then as you need stuff, somehow it magically, sometimes it's from someone you've helped, often it's from someone you haven't at all. But feed and nourishing that network, I think, is really important.
So true. And what about you, Sue?
Oh, I think my superpowers are perseverance and a love of learning. Those have served me well my entire life. But I also think on a very simplistic level, sometimes to succeed, you just need to keep your head down, do the job at hand, and wait for the inevitable winds of change to just calm down around you and just stay with it.
That is such a great point. And Penny, what you just said shows that this theme of stronger together has been around a long time. Those who have embraced it, that's where you get in life. And it ties into what Sue's saying with sometimes you just gotta, those times when you have to put your head down and persevere through, that network can come in real handy to hold you up or push you through. Or like you said, Penny, that pay it forward comes back to benefit you. And that's a great point, because all of this it's about recognizing that it takes teams and it takes a lot of people. Two heads are better than one. And that's a great testament to all of it. All right. So now, just in more general terms, I'd love to know, and I've been asked this as we jump into this series, who inspires you? So who has been an inspiration in your life?
Millennials are my inspiration. And to a lesser extent, the Gen Y, as they're now coming into business. But I just really embrace this generation. They have faced some pretty significant socioeconomic hurdles, but they remain forward thinking and they're so gracious. If you have a technology issue, they're like, teachers. They have been taught to be teachers since they were in elementary school and teach one another. And they're very gracious about helping you with the things that are a little bit more of a hurdle for the boomers and our lack of access to some of those learning tools there. I love that they have patience and energy and enthusiasm. And I just love, they come to work every day with a smile on their face. And, they just give me a lot of hope every day for the business and for, our future.
That's incredible.
Excellent. That's an excellent one. Sue, what a forward thinking. I'm working alone here now as, my home office, and have been for the last few years. And where I've picked up inspiration is from, I do a lot of reading. So there's, a number of different authors that have inspired me, Thomas Merton and Richard Rohr and Don Miguel Ruiz with the 4 Agreements, just kind of some of that self, reevaluation. So that's where I've been getting my inspiration the past few years.
Oh, I get both of those examples. There are millennials, Sue, you hit it on the head. They really have faced some unique challenges, and to watch, how they are trying to lift each other up even, and the different socio issues that they've stuck behind, and their impact in the recent voting was seen. And Penny, you're right, authors. I'm also someone who's worked from home for a long time, and those authors, my shout out is to Brene Brown. There's just some people who really you can connect with. And it's another thing that, like we just touched on digital, you can now listen to these people like our podcast and connect with them at any time. So just a quick deviation on something fun outside of work and outside of the industry. What would you say are your hobbies or favorite interests, Penny?
So I reading is a big hobby for me. And I've gotten into pickleball the last couple of years. Have you heard of pickleball?
No, what is that?
It's a kind of a modified, it's for older people. You'll see a lot in Florida with the seniors. It is like, not like tennis, because tennis, you hit it hard. I've heard when I first started it, they described it as a combination between badminton and ping pong. So it's a bigger ball that's kind of more like a ping pong ball, but bigger, like the size of a baseball, and then a smaller, hand thing. And it's on a court, and quite luckily, there is a brand new court that was 2 miles from my home that I can ride my bike to. And so that's just been and the people that go there that are pickleball players are generally, oh, come on, join in. You don't have to already have a partner. And so that's been really fun. And I love golfing too. That's a fun, and especially through COVID. I mean, if I hadn't had a little golf once in a while, I don't know, I would have gone insane last summer. Can't wait for it to warm up again and get out there.
That's really cool. What about you, Sue?
I have a little cabin in the woods in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and it's very remote. It's 2.5 miles down a dead-end road with no neighbors. It's my little Zen place. My favorite thing to do there is to get a chainsaw out and cut the branches off of trees, because it's just really fulfilling to do that. I also just love to take sauna, and I have a little wood-fired sauna house, and I have to carry water to it. And so it's a little bit of a tradition and a little Finnish thing that we do up there. And it's very cleansing for your skin, and it's very cleansing for the soul. And after you're done, you can sit outside and cool off and listen to the birds and whatever. So I'm kind of into some Zen things in this point in my life.
I bet you, though, that chainsaw is a little Zen too. It can let out some stress. That
Absolutely.
That really sounds beautiful. There is really a return to nature and what's been going on. That's incredible. And I think I'm going to Google pickleball after this, because I love games like that. So I'm going to see what this is about. So before we wrap up with the big question of the day on the series, I'd love to know, as industry leaders, what motivates you? What is your driver every day to get up and keep doing what you're doing?
The thing that I love about product development is the creativity, not necessarily my own, but enjoying other people's creativity, enjoying and being delighted in the things that they come up with, and thinking about how these products could delight the consumer, or the component can delight the consumer. And it's just such a thrill. Recently I installed a smart light bulb. And so it turns on and off outside, dawn and dusk, and I don't have to worry about it ever. And I think of that kind of thing. It made my life more simple. It delights me every time I walk out in the dark and the light's already on. And so sometimes those simple things are really the things that really grab the consumer's interest. I'm never bored with my job, and that is one of the blessings. If I am bored, it's my own fault, and it's a trigger to me to go out and find something that delights me.
That's an excellent point.
What a great answer. What a great answer. When you've given us some heads up on this, and I thought about what motivates me about my leadership in CMA, and the high caliber professional,ism, whether they're engineers, marketing people, the executives that are on the board, these just are really great people that have an incredible amount of professionalism, but also compassion. And they're just, it's a really great, and you talked about a little bit earlier, it sounds kind of like we're overdoing it, but they're just such great people. Like you talked about the family of them. And even though they're fierce competitors most of the year, when you meet face to face with the people that are in this organization that it's been a pleasure to be working with for the last few years, when they meet, they're just, it's family. It's, you can't, I have people, wives of the senior executives that will reach out to me ahead of time. They're like, I got to have the names list because I remember so-and-so's wife, but I can't remember her name. And I want to make sure that I say hello to Fran, and because I can't wait to see her, but we only see each other twice a year. And that is very motivational, yeah, and inspiring. So that's been my experience for the last 6 years.
I second that. And I know, like you said, but we're not saying it because we're working here. It really is. It's the reason why actually when you asked, I came because it's the people. We really do. It's a genuine, Chris Welch said it best. So part of coming on board, I got to talk to the board and ask them, tell me what you think of the CMA. And he said it best. He said, you'd think with competitors, there wouldn't be this safe space to help each other. And there is. I got to witness it firsthand at Woodford when we hit some issues, and first person we called is Krista Kaiser over at DuPont, and hey, how are you guys handling it? And it really amazed me coming from another side of business and retail where you would never do that on the retail, at least where I worked. And it really is just this incredible energy of people. And we do really have it in the housewares industry. In our association, we have an incredible cross-section of people. And that led to this series on diversity. And we are, like I mentioned in the intro, we started with this month highlighting women in the industry because it's Women's History Month. So I'd love to ask you both, with your experience in the industry, what was the atmosphere of diversity when you first entered? And then where is it today? Do you feel do you see it changing, and how do we become even stronger?
So I'll try and answer that first. When I thought about that, what came to mind, and I'm not sure if this is the direction you were going in, but what came to mind was when I thought about diversity early in my career, not necessarily to this industry, but just as a working professional. When my son was small, it was the mom that was the doctor's appointments and went to the kid when they were 6, stayed home. And when you had events at school, it was, mom that had to go. And then the men especially in my leadership roles, they just didn't have that struggle. So you saved every vacation day and any kind of comp days that you had, because you had to use them. You didn't have vacation days for the first 10 years of your child's life. And then that evolved to, which I'm very happy it did. By the time I left the corporate life, I had young managers that were split time. I mean, hey, I've got to take the kids this week because my wife is also working. And there was just a change in that level of diversity. So that's, historically really all that came to mind for me. But you ask also, where do you see our industry, or how can we grow stronger together? And I had I think we need to be intentional. We need to be intentional about diversity, because it's just easy. I mean, if you go to whatever you're doing, your association or even just your friends and your relationships, and you always see people that look and act like you need to step out a little bit, because until you do, you don't realize, that you are being just closed-minded, that there isn't enough diversity with what you're doing. And then to support, when you identify and you see an area that's underrepresented and you have a chance to support someone that's in a category that's underrepresented, and then just don't be afraid to bring up the conversation. And I love the idea that you're having these podcasts, Fran, because let's just start talking about it. And then from talking about it, that'll lead to people being more aware. And so, yeah, being intentional, being supportive, and then just not being afraid to have a conversation is what I would say would be helpful to any industry or association.
Oh, I love that answer, Penny, especially where you touched on the family part initially and the change you saw in like leave time and things like that. That is an important part of diversity, because we as women, we're the moms, and it wasn't always set up to really embrace. A friend recently said to me, we are expected to work like we don't have kids, but raise kids like we don't work.
That's an excellent analogy.
Yeah, we're to change. But I love also your point about being intentional. And I think I know it was taught from the Whitford side, but I think it was Jean Carlson who always encouraged you at a meeting to say, don't sit with someone from your company, sit with someone else. And even that kind of diversity, just going outside your comfort zone to meet and engage with new people. So what have you seen in your time?
When I got out of college, I interviewed for jobs, and I would be told at the end of the interview, you can't do the job, you're a woman. And then I was hired at Amway, and the manager who introduced me to the team said, well, she's young and she's married and she'll be here about 2 years and she'll have babies and be gone. I love to think that a lot of things have changed over the years. I can say also that working at a company that does business globally, being a young woman, I had to travel a lot to different countries and ran into people who were not like-minded, like my manager, thinking I could do the job. And, I was tested. I was brought to gentlemen's clubs in Japan and, drinking games and whatnot. And you just have to kind of buck up, occasionally pretend you're really drinking. But it's a test that the men didn't have to get put through. And so I love to think that, especially with my science background, they finally came to respect, that I knew what I was talking about. They came to respect me. And now actually today, some of these people who took me to the gentleman's club were actually more like friends than a business relationship. So things have evolved a lot over the years. What I try to tell the women that I work with now who I'm mentoring, I encourage them, be smart, but be strong, and really hone their listening skills, because that is always going to serve you really, really well, regardless. And it is easier for women today than when I started at Amway. But Amway has recognized that they have some need to improve diversity, and they've developed these inclusion networks for a different variety of issues. And I'm really proud of that. I'm kind of appalled on one hand that after 40 years, we still need inclusion networks. Really, we're not any further along. But I'm really proud that Amway is facing up to the issues, and they're using these inclusion networks to address these issues face on and promote conversations and educate their employees. And I think eventually it will be a better place for all people.
Oh, that sounds incredible. And it's true. And I think this ties to what Penny was saying. It's just bringing that awareness to a topic. So many companies are adding this to their arsenal, and it's so important. It's incredible. I thank you both for your stories, because you see in our industry so many incredible women. And that really is what inspired me to start this. I have some people who inspired me, and you're two of them. So I want people to also know that. And so that was such a great example you just gave. Even though you might start with some challenges, it's how you hold yourself. And I love the example you gave of pretending you're drinking. Little seltzer girls in a glass with some ice looks like a drink. So you don't have to be doing all that. There was ways to survive while still holding yourself intact. So,
and I traveled with Sue, initially with her, and then saw her in action. And she's, anybody that ever gets to be a mentor with Sue, she's got the class, and she's just not as intimidated. And that was what was really impressive for me was, I see what you're doing. I'm there. I can talk with you about it. But it also she didn't try and be one of the boys, but she also didn't let it intimidate her. And it was incredible to watch. And she's a great, great professional.
That's awesome. Yeah, stand your ground, right? You can still be true to who you are and get through those moments without becoming one of them or becoming the moment. So it's incredible. Well, I thank you both so much for doing this today. This was incredible conversation. I hope that the other women listening to this, especially the young ones, take a great lesson in being true to yourself and just following your path. And don't worry about it being planned, because it's usually not. And just, keep going and hold that head up high. I thank you both so much. Sue, thank you so much for joining us today. And Penny too. And I hope you both have a wonderful day.
Thanks.
Thank you for having me.
See you later.
And that's a wrap. You've been listening to What's Cooking with the Cookware Manufacturers Association. Thank you again to our guests for joining us today. My name is Fran Groesbeck. We are recording this podcast for the Cookware Manufacturers Association, and you can find my contact information and more at our website, cookware.org. You will find this podcast and others in the members section of the cookware.org website, as well as on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Castbox, Stitcher, and many more. At the CMA, we can't say it enough. Our members are our number one priority, and the association is a proven, valuable resource giving our members access to our exclusive engineering standards with a long and trusted industry history since 1922, timely statistical reporting, resources for retailers, and the best members network in the industry. And of course, important information on topics critical to our industry via our podcasts like this one. Stay safe, be well, and happy cooking, everyone.